Hey everyone, welcome back. So this time we're just gonna immediately jump back into things. As always, spoiler alerts if you haven't read the story or seen the last 3 episodes, and with that, let's begin. After the hardships of the last mission, the team made its way back to Rhodes Island, where Dr. Calcite was waiting for you and Amiya.
Welcome back. I already heard what happened from the recon squad. Amiya, let me check your hands.
There's no need for that, Dr. Calcite.
Amiya.
Alright.
Amiya presents her hands to Calcite.
It looks fine. The rings haven't cracked or discolored, but it might be different next time. Listen closely, Amiya. Be a little more careful.
Amiya tries to brush her comment aside, stating that she needs to rest before heading out. After an awkward silence, Calcite addresses you.
Never put Amiya in this much risk again. You are also responsible for what happened. When you first came back to Rhodes Island, she looked a bit like this. These emotions never really left Amiya. This has to change. Doctor, you should stay with her. Don't mess up.
You then head to Amiya's room and knock on her door before she calls out that it's open. As you enter, she mentions you questioning if she's worried and states that you saw right through her despite her efforts to hide how she's currently feeling.
I'm already used to doing this. After all, I can't drag down everyone else anymore. Right, Doctor? I don't understand. Doctor, I don't understand.
You remain silent, and after a long pause, she mentions that she knows that some sacrifices are inevitable for what they're trying to do, but she questions why she has to keep losing people when they could have been saved. After everything that's happened, she's a bit torn up emotionally, but mentions that she has a duty and will continue to move forward. After chatting for a bit, she makes it clear that she's tired and wants to be alone, so you make your way out and call it a night. The next morning, you're accompanied by Dr. Calcite as Amiya meets you two and tells you good morning. Dr. Calcite cuts to the chase and mentions needing help with an urgent mission. Apparently some ruins that formed in the aftermath of Chernobyl have had a lot of recent activity. She explains that if Reunion was stationed there, that it could have serious ramifications for their future operations and that they needed to scout out the city. After handing her some logs going over the situation, she then mentions that Franca and Liskarm are returning the Black Steel and that Penguin Logistics wanted her to meet them to discuss the Loneman situation. Amiya confirms and calls for you to head out with her when Calcite cuts her off and says that she has some stuff to discuss with you.
May I listen in?
You may not.
I can cover my ears.
You cannot. You should get going.
Aww. Dr. Calcite, you're not allowed to bully the doctor.
I won't. You couldn't even do something so basic. Forget it. I had a feeling this would happen. Amiya is an incredibly resilient kid, but if she has to force herself to be strong, there will come a day when the pressure breaks her. Do not let this happen. If there is a next time, you'd better be a little more useful. What's with that face? You can choose to remain silent or ask about Amiya's rings. If you ask about her rings, she explains that they're related to her health and that if Amiya is in any intense battles to immediately check them afterwards and that any and all changes must be reported to her. She then concludes that for the time being that's all you're allowed to know, and she briefly mentions to head to the medical center in 2 days to have a physical done. I thought she hated us. Anyways, she then dismisses you, stating that Liskarm is waiting outside to escort you to meet the rest of them. After that, we cut to the ruins near Chernobyl, where we see 3 operators scouting out an area. Meteorite, a brunette Sarkaz woman with black horns and a forked tail. She's equipped with a unique crossbow that fires explosive projectiles, and some thick Frostleaf, a Volpo girl bearing white hair with black tips, 2-toned ears with the respective colors, and a hood adorned with headphones. She's equipped with a poleaxe with a very interesting shape to it. And lastly, we have Jessica, a timid feline girl with gray-blue ears and hair that fades to purple-pinkish kind of tips. From what I've gathered online, she's equipped with a Beretta M9. What's interesting about Jessica having an actual gun as opposed to the many operators using strung weapons is that in the world of Terra, guns and bullets are extremely expensive and are usually only used by certain sancta of the Laterano
faction, like Exia or those with a large amount of wealth, but that's a discussion for another time. As they arrive, Meteorite is finishing up a report to RI before she speaks up.
Frostleaf, why were you frowning the whole way here? I'm just a little concerned about Amiya's group. They've already safely returned to Rhodes Island. Nerl and Doberman already left Loneman a week ago for their next assignment. It must be a pretty tough issue if it requires sending those two together. Black Steel and Penguin Logistics both have their own matters to attend to.
Oh, Liscarm and Franca. I'm glad they're safe.
Meteorite then relays that when they sent Jessica their way, that Franca spoke highly of her.
Really?
If only you weren't so timid, she said. Hey, don't act like you're about to cry. Aren't you a member of Black Steel?
I'm not crying.
Meteorite seems dumbfounded for a second before she moves on, explaining that they were to work with other recon teams in the area to scout out the city, and that though it wasn't expected to be dangerous to proceed with caution. She wraps things up saying that if they did encounter Reunion to immediately retreat and report to Dr. Kaltsi. Everyone confirms and the squad heads out. We then cut back to RI where you've just caught up with Amiya and the familiar members of Black Steel and Penguin Logistics. Exia calls to you stating their job is done and that it'll be a bit before you see each other again. You're given 3 dialogue options, but the illusion of choice is present this time as no matter what you choose, Liscarm will reply that you'll see them soon enough. Franca then chimes in saying it won't be long before they station back in RI and to try not to miss her too much. Exia cuts back in saying that their reason isn't as official, asking Texas to confirm.
Hold on a second. Penguin Logistics is going on a vacation.
She says it's only for 1 day, but that it's well needed when Texas apologizes on her behalf. Amiya brushes it off, telling her everyone needs a rest. Texas responds that she should be saying that to her. Exia then chimes in, agreeing with her, and Amiya tries to argue, but everyone starts speaking up in agreement, giving her praise for her efforts, followed by constructive criticism to get the rest she needs, as there are a lot of people relying on her. Texas even goes as far to say that she inspires everyone by the way she fights. Exia and Franca then call for both of you, and when they get Amiya's attention, they state in unison, "Keep up the good work! Cheer up!"
After we finish our report, we'll be right back. No matter what, life must move forward. Take care, Mia.
Everyone, I will. You all take care as well. See you next time.
Everyone makes their way out, leaving you and Amiya. Amiya speaks up, mentioning that she needs to visit Loneman when the illusion of choice returns once more. You're given 3 different methods of expressing concern for her safety, but she just dismisses it, explaining that she'll be okay as she'll be accompanied by an operator who goes by Project Red, and to not worry as she's very good. We then cut back to Meteorite Squad and some members of Reunion as a fight is coming to a close. Frostleaf expresses concern for how loud they're being, but Meteorite states that it'll be fine as there are explosions happening all over the city. She then asks Frostleaf if she's contacted Dr. Kaltseat yet, and she confirms that she actually did before the battle even began, and was still on the phone with her. It's clear that Reunion is active within the city, so Frostleaf speaks up again, asking if they should be stealthier. Meteorite explains that certain members within Reunion were using arts capable of detecting them, and so they need to strike first so they don't give up their location to the rest of the soldiers stationed there. Meteorite then asks Frostleaf to survey the area, and she confirms before passing the comms over to her. She speaks up, asking if Kaltseat can hear her. Always could, indeed. You can't afford to let your guard down yet. Jessica, there might be an enemy behind you. To everyone's surprise, there was, but he was already struck down by Frostleaf. If I can attack you from behind, that means you were too slow. We're fine now, Dr. Kaltseat. I've taken out the enemy. You really are fast. I couldn't even see how you managed to get over there and come back so quickly. Actually, I never even left. You can tell Meteorite is thinking this over before Kaltseat speaks up again, stating that Project Red has contacted her and confirmed that there are no signs of Reunion within Lundman, and that at this stage it's best not to poke the hornet's nest before detailing her about some intel dealing with another Reunion force possibly lying within a nearby desert. Meteorite sarcastically calls this area the jackpot before mentioning that it is a bit much for a recon team. Jessica then mentions that they've already dealt with 2 squads, and after some back and forth between them, Calci inquires about the enemy numbers, but at this time, it's unknown just how many of Reunion were stationed there. Meteorite then checks in with Frostleaf, who seems distressed and doesn't respond. She can sense something's wrong with the situation, so Calci lets them go and reminds them to contact her if there's any issues. The two of them then make way to an Originium-torn but still more developed portion of the city where Frostleaf was standing. What happened? You two didn't feel it? They seem confused before she goes on to explain that the temperature in this area is noticeably colder. Jessica asks how the weather could change so suddenly when Frostleaf tells her that it's not the weather before asking them to feel the walls of a nearby building. They're cold to the touch and somehow manage to absorb all the heat from the area, but it seemed to be only temporary as it was wearing off. Meteorite and Jessica seem lost as to just how this happened as they question if Reunion was really capable of doing something like that. Frostleaf then speaks back up.
The infected. I once heard a legend about a creature called the Yeti.
I have a feeling that this is going to get troublesome. We then cut to the slums of Loneman City where Amiya is standing out in the rain when a kid runs into her. They apologize and ask why she's just standing out there. She states that she's just taking a walk before asking if they were looking for help. When they ask how she knows, she just teasingly says, I can't tell you, it's a secret. They hesitate to ask for help, stating that she might be too short when she claps back, reminding them that they're shorter than her. Finally, they ask her to help them move some stuff so they can reach this record player. Of course, Amiya happily obliges, and the two of them successfully retrieve it, though it doesn't seem to be in the best shape. This seems to dishearten Amiya a bit, but the kid states that they already knew and intended to try and fix it up so they could play the records they've been collecting for everyone. Amiya comments on how the kid is taking on such a difficult task, wondering why she can't do the same under her breath when the kid asks, Hey, why aren't you scared of us despite being infected? When she reveals that she's infected as well. They remark that it's such a pity since she's so pretty when she remarks that there's nothing wrong with being infected, and that whether you're healthy or infected, as long as you're a good person, that'll never change. The kid seems confused before their stomach audibly rumbles. She of course offers them the last of her food, and they're delighted before asking why she came there. It's because I made a promise to someone. We then cut to them saying their goodbyes when Amiya seems to get caught up with lamenting the fact that the infected have lost their identities as people before being caught in a wave of thoughts with nothing but self-doubt when she begins to hear a voice. Why can I not protect those around me?
You cannot.
No,
Famine, persecution, death. These are the only things awaiting the infected.
No, that's not true. As long as Rhode Islands is fighting for the infected.
You are but one of the lucky few.
No, we've all come together to fight a common goal.
This world has already become cold and callous.
No, not yet. The infected can't succumb to despair just yet.
You allow the rage to consume you. Only then.
No, I won't. I made a promise. I made a promise to her. Huh? Who's that? Amiya seems to come to her senses as she notices a small girl handing off a doll to someone while making a comment about the doll that she more than likely learned from Misha. Amiya can't quite make out the woman in the downpour, but they seem familiar, and as she gets closer she can make out the silhouette. Is that Madam Chen? The little girl and Chen stand there silently for a long moment before Chen notices Amiya. Madam Chen. She continues to stand there silently. Madam Chen, what are you doing here? I thought you were... None of your concern. This is Loneman's business, and I will take care of it. The two stand there silently for another moment before Amiya takes notice of the tiny teddy bear held firmly in her hand. This is the first time I've seen that look in her eyes. We then cut back to RI where Calci seems to be giving someone directions over the phone when she notices you. Doctor, where's Amiya? You respond that she went to the slums. you actually let her go alone. Whatever, at least someone's protecting her.
When I offered to accompany her, she declined, but whatever to you too.
I suppose you wouldn't be able to do anything even if you went with her. I'll let you off the hook this time. Did you come back by yourself? Oh, Penguin Logistics. She then states that you need to be careful not to be so reliant on the luxury of local guides, before making note that Amiya will be leaving Loneman soon to take on the other mission that was mentioned earlier. And that if she was you, she would say anything to Amiya that she couldn't before. You take heed of this and make your way to meet Amiya on her way out of Loneman.
Doctor, were you waiting for me this whole time? I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. My complexion looks different from when I left? Some things happened. I feel like perhaps Madame Chen has her own way of looking at things.
She continues, stating that though she can be harsh, that maybe they're not so different, and brings up how she has her responsibilities before you speak up and say, Amiya, you have plenty of responsibilities yourself.
Is that so? I just didn't have any other choices.
At least you saw your choices through.
I suppose. All these consequences were the results of my persistence. Doctor, there's no need to try and comfort me.
She continues to explain that basically she's aware of everything. She just doesn't know how long they have to keep going before the world decides to finally change. But that she'll continue to press forward and bear the consequences of the path she took before taking a brief pause and asking you to stay by her side, even as the guilt eats away at her, and as she begins to face the reality with everyone at RI. Suddenly her phone, I'm just gonna start calling all the comms and whatnot phones, starts ringing, and it seems she's getting a call from Kaltsi. Apparently the situation in the ruins has turned for the worse. We then cut to Meteorite's squad trying to stay hidden from a few Reunion soldiers who seem to be searching for something. Thankfully they were able to stay hidden and the soldiers walk off before one of them goes with the good old Bethesda line, "Must have been my imagination." The squad whispers back and forth, with Frostleaf asking if Meteorite can take the three of them out, but she states that it's too far and that there's something off about these guys compared to typical Reunion soldiers. As the party continues to assess the situation, though it's a 3v3, they really don't know what they're capable of, so they don't want to risk the chance of becoming surrounded. They also notice that the caster of the bunch was testing something while the others were communicating with someone. Meteorite tries to get closer when suddenly the temperature in the area just drops drastically. Jessica preemptively bites down on her glove to prevent her teeth from chattering, and Meteorite looks confused. Frostleaf then whispers to her that basically she was just trying to keep quiet before calling her a diligent kid. Meteorite responds saying that she's just a kid too. Frostleaf scoffs and says, "As if." They then focus on continuing to survey the area, and after some time the three soldiers leave. Shortly after, the temperature returns to normal, confirming Reunion's involvement in this weird phenomenon they keep finding. Meteorite and Frostleaf begin to discuss the idea of the Yeti legends again before moving on to another area. Frostleaf had scouted ahead and found another ice-cold wall, but this one had a unique piece of Originium in the center of it. There was some strange writing that led to the core, and they assessed that this is what was capable of sending out that cold wave they felt earlier. Frostleaf then begins to relay that in her days as a mercenary, that she heard rumors of a fierce group of infected led by a towering monster, carrying out guerrilla warfare against the nation of Ursus, and that wherever they traveled, only a barren landscape devoid of life remained, and that the frozen land beneath their feet and buildings would crumble in the snow across the battlefields in their wake. Meteorite then inquires if Frostleaf thinks that this is, before she cuts her off, stating that she does believe that this is the very legend, the Yeti Squadron. Let's keep going. I have a feeling that we're going to find the Reunion base soon. But before they can, they notice Jessica acting weird when she mentions the smell of something burning. We then cut back to Chen catching up with you and Amiya. "Oh, and what's this? She's late from a meeting?
Why, I oughta wasted 14 minutes of my time right back at you. I mean, Amiya tells her it's no problem, but internally feels something similar, maybe just a bit less snappy. How's the situation? Our scout team has already sent back some information. I went through and picked out a few things that might interest you. Ah, Inspector Hoshiguma. Don't worry about me, I'm just gonna listen in. Continue, Amiya, it's fine. Very well. We managed to get a lead from some infected. The scout team has already confirmed that there are several reunion hideouts in Lone Min's residential district. And Amiya begins to explain that a number of them plan to attack Lone Min and that they had even found an infiltration channel that they had been using. But Chen just scoffs at this and states that they underestimate LGD before asking about the ruins. Amiya explains the events that unfolded, well, at least the portion they know about so far, and that she's not certain that it's a large-scale operation, but that she does recommend that it's looked into more. Chen then asks Hoshiguma to bring her some forms, and she tells her to continue. To summarize, Rhodes Island suggests a joint operation to completely eliminate the remaining reunion forces in Lone Min. No good. The LGD will not permit it. Amiya is shocked, and Chen follows up explaining that because they're infected, that if they carry out any more missions in the slums, that they'll only cause more chaos, and that this was their decision. As Amiya begins to try to reason with her, she gets a call from Jessica, who seems to be in a lot of distress. She's trying to keep quiet and whispers that they found two of Reunion's leaders in the slums when we cut back to them watching W approach Mephisto. So you fled back here with your tail between your legs. I am no mongrel like you and your lowly kind. If not for the fact that you completed your mission, I would have added 2 more scars to your filthy face. Didn't you lose all your limbs in that explosion? I'd feel sorry making a kid like you put makeup on my face with your mouth. Pah! But let's set this aside for now. It's not doing either of us any good. I'll admit to that much. Then have they taken the bait? Surely. Let's just see if that old flag waver can bring back the real goods. Speaking of which, you're pretty scared of that old timer, aren't you? I'm already in a bad mood. Oh my, sorry about that, but that's just before we land the catch, right? How about we put aside our differences for the time being? Fine. I'll deal with the small fry first. Rhodes Island, I know you're there. It's impossible to hide from me. Jessica then begins to approach him, but Meteorite tries to stop her. Jessica, don't. It could be a trap. He found us. We have to. If we defeat the enemy leader, we have to. Huh? They really were here? Where'd you come from, little kitty? You can't just treat this place like your playground. He then calls out to a handful of soldiers to attack the squad, and they begin their advance. The battle is fierce and takes its toll on our operators, but they manage to clear out the squad that attacks them. Jessica is out of breath, but seems relieved that they were able to defeat them when Meteorite states, "No, not yet." Jessica then spots a mysterious powder drifting upon the soldiers when they suddenly begin to rise again. As they pull themselves back up, they retch in pain, one member even managing to groan out, It hurts." Another cries out, It itches," before their attention is drawn to RI. Jessica stammers at the sight of these reanimated soldiers when Frostleaf notices a glow coming from Mephisto's staff. He then taunts the group in an attempt to get them to retaliate, seeming able to especially get under Meteorite's skin. As she is ready to fire upon him, Frostleaf manages to calm her down, but Jessica notices more and more enemy reinforcements. Frostleaf then mentions feeling them coming. Mephisto taunts Meteorite one last time, saying that this might be her last chance before departing. Frostleaf then calls for Meteorite to take aim at a collapsed building to buy them some time. She hits it with perfect aim, and with the temperature drastically shifting colder again, the three make their way out of the area with haste. As they're retreating, Frostleaf makes a call to Amiya. As she answers, you can overhear Frostleaf going, "Amiya, do not come. These ruins are..." The call is cut off, and then we switch to Amiya's perspective where she's calling Frostleaf's name, desperate for an answer. She then gets a transmission from the 2nd Recon Squad, and as they try to mention something about reunion, it's cut short once again. She then tries her best to get a hold of the 3rd Recon Squad, but there's no response. Chen then calls to Amiya, but she's still distraught.
She furiously tries to get in contact with Dr. Calcite when suddenly she answers,
Dr. Calcite, it's me. Did you get... I've been continuously monitoring them from the bridge. I need you to ask something to that officer next to you. Ask her, how long does Loneman intend to keep playing dumb? I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that, but we certainly don't have time to waste. Hoshiguma then walks back up. What happened? I just went to grab some forms and you two look all serious now? A new mission? Correct. Amiya then calls for everyone to gear up before addressing Chen, stating that she's formally requesting LGD's assistance on this rescue mission. She follows up stating that this might just be Reunion's new temporary headquarters and expresses concern for the recon teams. She concludes all this stating that if she denies her request that RI will act alone, as it doesn't violate the terms of their cooperation. Of course we'll be there. Is that so? In that case, thank you. On behalf of Rhodes Island, I know Loneman still sees us as infected. Chen dismisses this, saying it's no big deal and that they don't know if they'll even be able to enter the ruins, but that eliminating Reunion was still their top priority, so they'll play it by ear. That's enough for us. Thank you, Madam Chen. Sorry, I have my own duties. Did you hear me, Doc? We will join up with Rhodes Island. Calcite then speaks up again, saying that she has the recovery of the recon squads covered, but that Meteorite's group is too far away. Amiya infers what they'll need to do and confirms with her. Calcite then gets ready to send the coordinates before ending with, remember, safety is your top priority.
The team receives the coordinates, and with the squad ready to head out immediately, Hoshiguma breaks away to gather some more LGD forces while the rest of you prepare for the worst. We then cut to their arrival at the ruins. As they progress through the ruins, they take in the scene and observe how desolate and grim the surrounding area was when Hoshiguma and Chen discuss how Ursus must have abandoned the area. As they continue, Chen makes note of the problems Lonemen could face if this truly was another Reunion stronghold, as it was even closer to their city, and after some more back and forth discussing the possible involvement in recent events, they begin to question just how they'd be able to make use of the area so soon after a catastrophe, as they look at how fresh the damage was. Amiya then speaks up, stating that during their observations they found out that this area was actually affected in the aftermath of the catastrophe. The phrasing here is kind of odd, but from what I'm gathering, I believe they mean that Reunion actually caused this damage, as they emphasize that it happened after the catastrophe hit the area. Hoshiguma then comments on the surrounding area's hostile environment when Amiya speaks back up, remarking that she's confirmed the location of Meteorite's squad, but that the route's terrain would cause some issues moving all of the forces together. Unaware to the party, we see Tallulah in the shadows. I didn't expect you to be here. Hoshiguma then turns to Chen. Chen, what do you think? Chen? How? Chen then rushes after Tallulah, but it seems that the rest of the party didn't identify her, though Amiya seems to question if she recognizes a silhouette. They're ready to chase after them, but they're cut off by a group of soldiers and some Originium slugs that appeared in their path. Amiya shouts out that some of them look ready to explode, and Hoshiguma calls for you to make sure that the operators proceed with the utmost caution. Your squad manages to take out the enemy forces without any injuries, and Hoshiguma commends their strength, despite ironically calling them roadblocks in a tower defense game. But anyways, the squad sees no sign of Chen, and she isn't answering Hoshiguma either, but apparently this isn't new according to her. She then calls for LGD to follow her, but Amiya stops her, saying that RI should handle it as they're approaching an Originium-dense zone and that they'll all be at risk for catching a Ripathy, and that the consequences are much too dire. Furthermore, as infected, given your small stature, it's cute when you try to give serious speeches. Huh? I was just giving you a hard time, but you don't have to persuade me. I understand your concern. She then turns to her men once more. LGD, we will be Rhode Island's shield. Block the entrance and don't let a single Reunion member enter or exit. We'll let the experts handle this problem. Inspector? Oh, just call me Hoshiguma. Go. Please take care of Chen. Make sure you bring her back in one piece. I will, Hoshiguma.
I swear, I'll bring Madam Chen back safely.
The two then press for the other to stay safe before Amiya calls to you and the rest of the RI operators to follow her. We then cut to Calci and a medic standing somewhere else within the ruins. The medic reports that they successfully retrieved the recon squad they got in touch with last, but explains that the situation is looking really bad. Gruber, hypothermia, and necrosis? What's going on here? One of the wounded operators groans out in pain, and as Calcite examines them, she's taken aback. Completely frostbitten? We then cut back to your squad once more. Amiya is surveying the area and seems to find clues that Meteorite squad was there. A dead Reunion soldier was frozen over where they were wounded, but was still intact. A technique that Frostleaf is capable of doing, and the ruins nearby were recently made from explosions. Amiya then receives word from Calcite that the recovery of the other recon squads was successful and that they're safely back at RI. She mentions that they all survived but suffered varying degrees of frostbite before making mention of a special squad of soldiers roaming the area that had a unique way of fighting compared to all the previous reckless encounters with Reunion, and suggested to proceed with the utmost caution. Amiya confirms, but Calcite calls for you. Doctor, do you understand? You confirm as well. Very well then. She mentions that she has some things to take care of and tells Amiya not to rely on any one person too much and to keep the rings in mind. Amiya confirms, and after they hang up, she tells you that Dr. Calcite actually worries about you a lot, but the conversation is cut short by another ambush. Amiya reassures that you'll be able to successfully break through the ranks and rescue Meteorite Squad before you begin to engage the enemy. During the fight, we see Calcite calling Project Red. Oddly enough, we never see or hear from her this episode despite the amount of time she's mentioned. Calcite arranges for them to meet in the slums of Loneman, and we can tell that Project Red asks if it'll just be the two of them by context, and she confirms but remarks that there'll be more than enough to handle Reunion before it fades out. We then cut back to your squad, and after managing to clear out countless waves of enemies, you reach a good vantage point to survey the area when Amiya spots Chen. Madam Chen! She's surrounded by countless dead Reunion soldiers. It's you. I lost control of myself. Sorry. I might have fallen into the enemy's traps. No, it's fine. We're still on track with the original plan. It's just that the one who appeared earlier, was that Tallulah? No. It doesn't matter now. My gut feeling was wrong. This place doesn't look like somewhere that person would be anyways. Our mission still remains top priority. Without me, LGD would struggle to carry out this search mission, especially given the current situation. She then points out that it's risky for her to go any further, and Amiya agrees. She actually wants her to return to LGD as the high concentration of Originium could easily infect her, even if she took medication beforehand. Chen pauses before she asks just what you'll do. Amiya explains that they came here to rescue one of their squads, and that RI doesn't turn its back on anyone. After another brief pause, Chen speaks up, stating that she'll call for a group to meet up with yours if the situation allows for it. Amiya then tries to get some operators to escort her, but she dismisses this and walks off on her own. Amiya then comments on her pride before turning to you. She mentions that RI is alone again, but that it'll be fine, and you continue on your way to help Meteorite, Frostleaf, and Jessica. As your squad gets closer to their coordinates, Amiya notices an odd stench, the smell of something burning. She then questions just where they were when she spots an ambush and yells for everyone to watch out as a bolt of energy hits the area. We're then shown the caster that shot the attack and a soldier. The caster is shocked that he missed, but the soldier remarks that they'll be fine where they're at. Suddenly, the caster groans in pain but stays firmly in place. What's wrong? He won't be able to answer you. What? We then cut back to Amiya. From that building. Wait, is that... Frostleaf! Frostleaf, is that you? It is. I've taken care of the enemy. Sorry for making you worry, Amiya. As she approaches, she seems to stumble into Amiya, and it seems she took some damage, so they call for a medic. It seemed that she had suffered a bit of frostbite, which concerns Amiya. Frostleaf dismisses her concerns, stating that Meteorite and Jessica were still in the main square. She follows up, stating that they're safe for now as she led the enemy forces away, but
that they'll only be okay for a bit as he's coming soon. Mephisto is then shown in the distance.
Where are you hiding, little fox? Hurry and come out. Our game of hide and seek is about to come to an end. For every minute you're hidden, I'll break another one of your friend's fingers. Do you still plan to keep running? Mephisto? He's bluffing. Don't take the bait. What is he doing?
It seems Frostleaf was right and that Mephisto really was just bluffing, so your squad manages to sneak away. Amiya tries to get in contact with Meteorite, but she's surprised that despite being in the same area, that it can't get through. Frostleaf then shows that her phone has been completely frozen over. Amiya looks shocked, and Frostleaf explains that Mephisto is a nobody, and that the real threat was the Yeti squad roaming the city. She follows up stating that if they happen to run into them, that it could mean some serious trouble. Amiya tries to learn more, but Frostleaf just gives her a short version of what happened as they're short on time, and after the brief discussion, she leads the way to where Meteorite and Jessica were hiding. As they get closer, Amiya takes note of some figures in the central square and comments that the reek is almost enough to make her vomit. Frostleaf says to stay away from them before being alerted to some enemies approaching. She then states to attack them before they notice your presence, and your squad jumps into battle. Your squad manages to successfully take out the enemies, and Frostleaf continues to lead the way. Meteorite and Jessica are hiding away when Frostleaf calls out to them to let them know it's her. Look who I brought. Meteorite, it's us! Who is that? Amiya! Amiya! You really came! It's so good to see you. But you shouldn't have come. This whole thing's a trap. It wasn't worth it for you to come to our rescue. This was the wrong decision. There's no point in blaming her now. Besides, even if everyone else doesn't think you can be rescued, Amiya would still not give up on you. I wasn't blaming her, it's just that... Sorry, Amiya. It's okay. I'm just glad that you're all still safe. She then asks where Jessica is, though it's revealed that she's traumatized to the extent of being in shock and is unable to respond to anyone. Amiya then asks for Frostleaf to place Jessica's hands on her arms and hold her fingers tight. She hesitates, but agrees, and as they do, Amiya seems to channel her energy and see vivid visions relating to Jessica's memories. Amiya is visibly struggling. Whether it be from the memories or the process itself, she continues to press forward. She then comments that there's a deep sorrow when she finally reaches a point where she can get through to Jessica. Jessica! It's fine now. You have to be strong, Jessica. Huh? Mia? I'm here. The withdrawn piece of her begins to come forth, finding solace in Mia's voice, and she comes to. Jessica, are you alright? Mia? What was I? I'm so sorry. I didn't think that. It's fine now. Those... I know what it's like. Yes, I've also experienced it. Wanting to run, but your legs not moving. Wanting to scream, but your voice not coming out. I understand what you've been through, Jessica. I've been there too. Try standing up. You don't need to be afraid anymore, because we're all together now. Let's go back to Rhodes Island together. Franca and Liskarm are waiting for you. I have to interrupt this serious moment in a character's development to point out that it actually says Frank. Right here. Yeah, that was it. Frostleaf then asks Amiya just what she did, and she whispers to keep it a secret from Dr. Calcite. Interesting. Amiya then turns to Meteorite and questions just what they saw, but she remarks that it's best if she didn't find out, as it was unrelated to their combat operations. Suddenly, the squad hears Mephisto again and immediately takes to hiding. How long are you going to keep hiding, Rhode Island insects? Frostleaf assures Mia that he doesn't actually know that they're there, and he continues. Still don't feel like coming out. Don't think I didn't see your reinforcements coming. Well, whatever. I have something to show you, and I'm sure you'll like it. Looking back now, we were originally planning to take over Chernobog from the very beginning. We waited for so long, and finally our time had come.
The moment when we can take our revenge against Ursus. Against those who persecuted us infected. But what about the fellows in the sub-city? They ran away. They had pretty quick reactions. Ran away before we even had a chance to take action. Disconnecting themselves, and took off as quickly as they could. But where did they escape to? Our comrades had permeated every district, waiting for our opportunity. In the end, we caught up to them, and gave them the punishment they deserved. These cowards, these perpetrators, what were we to do with them? It's simple. We would make an example of them. A proclamation that all injustices against the infected would be purged. Yes, that is the symbol of the reunion movement. Let them all turn into effigies of terror, one by one. You, set that effigy on fire. Let there be light. Yes, sir. He then calls for the rest of his soldiers to set fire to the countless effigies they had formed.
These likely being the weird objects that caused the stench earlier. With little time to react, you cover Amiya's eyes. You tell her not to look, and Frostleaf speaks up.
It's a burning hellscape of malevolence and madness. Doctor, let go of me. I'm fine. No, you must let me see it. One day, I must hold him accountable for his actions. Besides, I used to...
You let go of her to see a wretched sight of a massacre's worth of people lying dead in front of a building with Reunion's logo burning into it. The party looks on in horror, and comments on the scene before them when Mephisto calls out to them again, this time specifically pointing out Amiya.
How long do you intend to keep hiding, my dear rabbit of Chernobog? I saw your little rabble sneaking around earlier, so I thought you might have been up to something. But it turns out, you're just here to enjoy the show. How boring.
Amiya then steps forward with you and the rest of the squad.
Looks like you brought an entire party with you.
She looks on at him with a stern look.
Did you do all of this? Of course! Without terror tactics, how else were we supposed to minimize the losses? Make an example out of these 10%, and the other 90% fall into line. This, you see, can be considered the best way of saving lives.
After a long pause, Amiya then turns to you and states that even if you don't remember the old her, that she's not who she used to be. The once timid, fragile, and easily scared Amiya that couldn't move forward without you may even look the same.
But the difference is, I've now seen more than enough tragedies. I don't want to see something like this happen ever again. But nothing will change unless I face reality. After all, I can't afford to retreat. I have to continue to fight on.
She then calls out to the rest of your party, and you make your way to engage the enemy forces. As the fight continues, everyone is doing well to hold their own, when Frostleaf suddenly advances forward and slices down an enemy with ease. Get lost. She doesn't stop there, though. After she breaks their formation, she charges straight for Mephisto. Amiya then calls for the snipers and casters to cover her.
Oh? And just what do you want, little fox? I want you to scream and beg. I want you to pay. With your life.
Amiya then charges forward, casting attacks along the way. We see a Reunion soldier running away in fear, but more so due to the fear of ending up like one of the reanimated soldiers. Amiya then closes the distance between her and Mephisto before calling out to him.
Mephisto, we're not letting you get away. I should have guessed that those goons weren't enough to stop you. You're going to pay for what you've done, you sick bastard. You can't escape.
Frostleaf then charges him.
Little fox, you're getting a bit too close for comfort. Because I am the one who will take your life.
Those who do not respect the sanctity of life do not deserve one of their own.
Is that so? Out of nowhere, a sheer cold envelops the area quick when the ground beneath Frostleaf's feet is suddenly frozen.
Meteorite then calls out that there are Reunion forces appearing from all directions when they realize just who it is. The Yeti Squadron.
Alright, I need to introduce you to a new friend. Ahem. Next up, put your hands together for the real star of the show, the nightmare of the Northwest Tundra, the master of the Yetis, Miss Frost Nova! She will freeze every bit of your flesh, every drop of your blood, bit by bit.
We need to get out of here.
Frost Nova then appears from the shadows, looking on at the once burning effigies that are now completely frozen over.
Mephisto, I should have left you to slowly freeze to death in the tundra like the psychopath you are.
Oh my! Scary. Scary. But Rhodes Island is right in front of us.
Amiya then calls for Frostleaf to retreat when there's a brief pause before she replies.
Amiya, take them with you.
I refuse. That person is...
She's coming right towards me. We can't win. Even though I would have liked to live a bit longer. I'm glad I had the chance to meet all of you. Hurry.
Frostleaf? Don't worry, Rhodes Island. I'll give you a painless death.
The ground then begins to grow a layer of ice that spreads outward from Frost Nova, and the temperature drops to that of the coldest winter. Even the sky itself was eclipsed by her powers as clouds begin to cover the city. Jessica begins to panic, but Amiya is able to reassure her before we see Meteorite screaming out to Frostleaf. It seems she was concentrating her powers to drain the heat from the surrounding area. Amiya exclaims that she's never seen her cover such a large vicinity before.
Master of Yetis, I've never met anyone with a lower body temperature than mine.
Frostleaf!
Meteorite. To be honest, I wanted to distract her and buy some time for you, but my body is completely frozen. I can't move my feet anymore.
Meteorite then calls for her once again, but Frostleaf just hollers for Amiya to take them and fight their way out.
In less than a minute, the enemy commander will have frozen this entire square. Amiya, we can't! I won't leave her!
I understand. I won't leave Frostleaf behind. I won't leave anyone behind.
She then states that she'll hold off the enemy forces and that she's counting on Meteorite to rescue Frostleaf. After Meteorite confirms, Amiya then turns to you, asking for you to lead everyone. You can choose to confirm in one of three ways, and the squad prepares themselves to jump into the fray.
Now that I think about it, I've only used these arts once before. Wherever there is blood.
So you want to use your ice to counter mine?
She then increases her concentration on Frostleaf, and we can see her visibly struggling.
How will you do that if you can't even use your tongue anymore? You...
Frost Nova then calls for the Yeti squadron to disperse, and they confirm.
My brethren, flush them out and freeze their blood.
As one begins to approach Amiya, he notices her chanting an incantation.
Your mind can hide nothing from me.
Black lines begin to form from Amiya that are able to slip past the barriers they had casted. The Yeti soldiers begin screaming out in pain, stating that his body is on fire while Meteorite continues to cover ground. The same soldier then cowers in pain, relaying that it's now cold. Frost Nova actually stands out from the rest of the reunion soldiers we've met so far, expressing immediate distress at the sight of her soldiers falling. She then calls for another soldier to assist and tells them not to let your squad hurt anyone else. After they confirm and move out, she commends Amiya's arts before shifting her attention to Frostleaf once again.
Damn you! Get away from me! I won't give you a chance to use your arts, girl. Now close your eyes and sleep. I'll put you out of your misery.
She briefly pauses as Amiya and Meteorite draw closer to her.
I take it that you're Amiya. I like the look in your eyes. That is how a warrior should look. I'm sorry.
Why are you... Frost Nova then begins to sing a somber melody that causes snow to start forming. Meteorite then realizes that she's casting her arts, and suddenly concentrations of what look like black ice begin to appear in the air. They then begin to drift to the ground, freezing and eroding the surrounding area like a glacier as they spread. Amiya then screams not to let her finish her song, and you call for your party once more and lead them into one of the fiercest fights you've faced yet. After a long and grueling battle, your squad manages to push the Yeti squadron back. Frostleaf isn't faring too well though, as she's still trapped.
I seem to have underestimated you, Rhodes Island. Perhaps I held back a bit too much.
Amiya begins to take note of the temperature continuing to drop around Frost Nova as she begins to lose feeling in her fingers.
This time,
you won't be so lucky.
Oh no! Is she trying to absorb all the ice surrounding us and release it all at once?
Frost Nova begins to sing again, but the looming cold she creates this time is on another level.
Let it all come to an end. May your anger be buried by the purest frost.
The cold begins to permeate your squad as she finishes her song when, suddenly, everything comes to a halt. Baffled by this, she turns to Frostleaf.
Is this your doing?
Didn't I already tell you? I won't let you come any closer. Did you disrupt my cold currents using your own arts? What a good kid. Frostleaf used her blade to sever the cold current, but she can't hold out long in that condition. Her blade, it's about to break. That's more than enough. This is our last chance. Amiya, now is the time. Cover me. Meteorite then dashes forward with Amiya backing her up, doing her best to counter the enemy forces. As she gets closer to the enemy line, she takes a blow from a ranged attack, but she brushes it off as it wasn't a direct hit. They continue to rain down an onslaught of attacks. She does her best to avoid all of them, but she takes another hit and Jessica screams out in concern. Despite this, Meteorite is able to push through, determined as ever. Amiya is demanding more from herself as she scrambles to find a way out of the situation, when for a brief second, everything clicks. She can feel where the current of the arts is stemming from. In one last desperate attempt, she unleashes a devastating attack at the large concentration of Originium hidden amongst the Yeti squadron. The soldiers are taken aback as Frost Nova's powers begin to diminish. The area is then covered in a shroud of an icy fog, and this gives your squad just the opportunity they need. Meteorite rushes over to Frostleaf just as she blacks out, and the scene fades. As everything fades back in, we can see Frostleaf coming to.
Wake up!
Huh?
I've got you!
Who?
Up here! Quick, grab onto me!
Meteorite?
Who said you could just play the hero? Do you think I could just sit there and watch you die?
Put me down. I'm not some pet.
Amiya, Jessica.
Alright, everyone. Let's get out of here. Meteorite, you go ahead with Frostleaf. I'll cover your retreat. The party then presses on with the enemy attacks still right on their heels.
Frostleaf, hang on. Don't die. Don't you dare die on me.
Don't worry. You can't get rid of me that easily.
Jeez. You and Amiya too. Why do both of you have to be like this? No matter how strong you might be, you're both just kids after all.
You're still treating me like a kid? If I could save all of you by giving up my life, I think that's a pretty good deal.
You... Mark my words. If you ever try to do something like this again, if you ever... I'm
sorry. Start running, Meteorite, and don't look back.
Hurry. Just go. Evacuate the area immediately. Protect the medics and the injured.
Amiya then calls for your snipers to take out the effigies and collapse the buildings behind them. They manage to successfully knock them down, creating a window where they could shake the enemy forces. We then cut back to Frost Nova.
So, they got away. How long have you been watching?
A towering Sarkaz man, adorned with fierce-looking armor, steps out of the shadows.
Just a few minutes. These warriors are worthy of praise. Be careful. Your body isn't in a very good condition.
I don't need you to remind me. Just do what you need to do, old-timer. I'm going after Rhode Island. We have to get rid of them first. Only then will we be able to go to Lundman.
The large man stands there silently, before it fades back to your squad approaching the exit of the ruins.
We're almost at the escape point. Doctor,
Amiya, we've finally gotten through to the LGD. It's an emergency communication.
Madam Chen!
Listen up.
Madam Chen, can you hear me?
Lundman.
What's going on?
I'm safe now, but Reunion took over one of our important facilities and is now forcefully opening a passage between the slums and the outer city. Amiya, Loneman is in danger.
The scene then fades out before we cut to Mephisto talking to Tallulah.
W managed to lure Loneman and Rhodes Island right into our trap. That's right, they won't be able to escape. Faust and Crownslayer have already broken their defenses at one location, and as you said, this will be our opening to flood into Loneman. We will set up ambushes around every corner. The road to Loneman will run red with fresh blood.
He then makes mention of an old flag waver coming back to Chernobog and how their victory is assured before asking if she has any other orders.
The time is upon us to turn this rotten city into ashes.
Episode 4, Burning Run, Finale. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching this all the way to the end. I thought I'd start doing something a little fun to close the videos off with, and I just kind of figured I'd ask y'all if there's any characters from Arknights that remind you of another character, or vice versa. Personally, I think Frostleaf and Lysithea from Fire Emblem Three Houses have quite a lot in common, both in personality and looks, though I can't really imagine Frostleaf being scared of ghosts. Also, props to her this episode. It's nice that they don't just leave the lower rarity operators on the sidelines. One last thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to get y'all's opinion on future episodes. As you may know, the story is about to get thicker than Meteorite's thighs, and so far I've been able to keep things roughly around the 30-minute margin. But as we're getting to the beefier episodes, I'm just curious if y'all would prefer one long video like how this one was, or maybe have something split into 2 or 3 parts where it's appropriate in the story. I do read every comment and really appreciate all the kind words, so if you have any suggestions or feedback about that, I'll definitely take it into consideration, and if you're just saying what's up, I'll try my best to get back to you. Anywho, I'll cut things off here. Take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.